Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this afternoon's special council meeting. I'm calling it to order here at 1 o'clock, and I just invite you to begin with me by observing a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we'll proceed, but keep in mind that if it does occur to you, you can mention it at any time. The main thing we are here for this afternoon is a report. The recommendation is that Council of the Municipality of Meaford, 1, approve the updated Chief Administrative Officer job description as presented, and 2, direct the HR manager to advertise the CAO position based on the timeline included in Report CAO 2023-22. Will I turn it over to someone to speak to this? How about our HR director, Sarah?
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for having me this morning, or this afternoon, I should say. Further to the report in addition, I should say, to the report that we sent to you in regards to the updated job description, all of the edits that had been forwarded to myself were reviewed, were incorporated, along with the interim CAO's few edits that he wanted to add in there as well, to which I have updated and I have supplied to all of you last week.
Questions or comments? Deputy Mayor Keaveney.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, and I'm happy to begin this conversation. First of all, I want to thank you, Sarah, for all of the tremendous effort you have put in to date in pulling this together and working through all of the changes that we've been experiencing. And I also wanted to thank you for allowing all of us to participate in this process and for incorporating, I assume, most of our comments. I see most of mine are in there, so I'm grateful for that. I did have a question, though. Outside of this, if we look back at prior CAOs that I've worked with anyway, they've pretty well all had additional duties. And I'm just wondering kind of what the anticipation or expectation is as we go forth and interview. Are we looking for someone to do just strictly these CAO responsibilities as outlined, or do we kind of work on some sort of an assumption that that individual will be required to take on something else? If we say with Matt, it's been fire, it was planning, of course, with Rob, and what might that look like?
Thank you for your question, Deputy Mayor. In regards to additional responsibilities, I mean, there's always the caveat at the end of any job description that states other duties as required. I don't like to leave that open. I do like to make sure that we have parameters around other duties. So if there is something that is not incorporated in the job description that you would like to see the CAO be responsible for, it is something we can add in here to make that change, or it is something we can look a little bit further into the job description and see if it is maybe incorporated somewhere in there too. But again, I'm just talking to the fact of the unknown of what you're looking for the additional duties.
Supplementary question?
Your Worship, if I may. And I guess my concern is, I mean, we won't know what skill sets applicants bring until we have the opportunity to meet them and review their experience and applications, resumes, and CVs, and so on. So I think it's difficult to incorporate something in here. But I guess further to that, my question to you, Sarah, is looking at the structure that we have now, our organizational structure, do we need our CAO to take on an additional duty such as I've mentioned?
Thank you for your question. I think the way it was set up previously was the CAO also took on the role of the CEO under the library as well. Through meetings there, I'm not sure what direction they're going to take from that, but I don't see the new CAO candidate having to take on that type of added responsibility. But other than that, I'm not sure what else you would want to see from that end. I think I'm just maybe misunderstanding some of what you're wanting as an answer from me.
Thank you, Your Worship, for indulging me, and I appreciate that, Sarah. I think it's difficult today to really make that determination until we understand what experience a CAO might bring to the organization. And I think it is my hope that either now or eventually we can assume a CAO who will just do CAO duties so that they can be really focused, because it's a long list, and that they would then have perhaps some time to work on, the strategy side of things, which, in recent times, our CAOs have really not had too much time to invest in that line of thinking. So I guess I'm trying to understand, if we look at this and assume, for argument's sake, that a new CAO will do just the duties as are listed here, and that wouldn't be needed to take on, as you say, the library position, or as planning and fire and the things that our CAOs have been doing. Can we as an organization manage, or do we need the CAO to take on an additional file?
Again, thank you for your question. I think I understand it maybe a little bit better now. No, I don't see that our CAO will have to take on any additional responsibilities. I think the direction that the library has taken has opened up the ability for the CAO candidate to be able to come in and really work to the strategic priorities that council has put in place. And I think that's where the needed effort needs to go. And I think from the comments that I received from all of you, the comments from the interim CAO, I think that's what everybody is looking for, is a CAO position that is going to truly be the CAO to help drive Meaford forward, municipality of Meaford forward.
And I think your question definitely has brought some clarity to a key point, I think, for all of us. I think Councillor Greenfield, you'd like to speak?
Thanks, Your Worship, and thanks, Deputy Mayor. Kind of following up on your question. There was one specific duty that I didn't see mentioned in here, and that had to do with emergency management. And I would think it would be common across Ontario for emergency management to involve the CAO. And so as I say, I didn't see it listed in the 40-some items. So I'm wondering if, to me, that's important enough to be mentioned. Overall, I liked, I like just about everything. The external relationships, I think, are also very important. And glad to see number 23 about participate and be actively involved in community and municipal events, which I'm not sure we have had enough of that in the past, so I'm glad it's mentioned specifically. The only other thing, it did mention a couple of provincial acts, the Health and Safety Act and the Municipal Act was under general duties and accountabilities, and I couldn't help but thinking, if we're going to get into mentioning individual acts, well, why isn't AODA in there? Why isn't the Conservation Act in there? So I don't know. I just thought it was. Is it adequate to name one or two acts? And because there are numerous acts that a CAO should have you know, some kind of a working knowledge. And that's maybe just my impression, but okay, that's it for me. Thanks.
Councillor Bartley? Oh, sorry, did you wish to? Yes, sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Councillor Greenfield. I just want to touch on the two questions I took from that. I've conferred a bit here to know that the emergency management group, that is a separate issue in itself. So it is handled separately by appointment. So that is something that we wouldn't necessarily incorporate into a job description necessarily because it is outside. The next piece that I was going to add in there, the acts that you had mentioned, those are more or less just to say that they should have knowledge on this act or this act, etc. And it's just to have a basis, a foundation that we're going to expect you to have knowledge of these types of municipal acts. And so it just gives them the ability to know that that is going to be, a caveat during the interview. Thank you.
Councillor Bartley, you're next.
Thank you, Mayor Kentner. Going back to Deputy Mayor Caveney's question. If the new CAO is not going to be the CEO of the library, then during this process, it has to come forward on how that's going to work. I'm not in favor. I don't believe the library board operates on its own and we have no control over that. I don't agree with that. Spend a lot of money of the municipality each year. And I believe, I'm not going to change the way it works, but I believe council should have some control. Council doesn't control the fire board, but on the fire board, we have all councillors with a couple public. I think there should be some sort of oversight of the library board from council. I think it's a prerequisite that somebody from staff be on that board, or I need to see the plan on the CEO of the library, which we don't do. I understand that, but I think this does encompass in the middle of this. I would expect the new CAO would be the CEO of the library.
You don't have that choice, Councillor. You wanted to comment, Sarah?
Thank you very much, Mayor. Yes, it is a board appointed positions that sit on the board. So just making it clear that it's not something that we control from this end.
And I understand there are 2 council seats on the library board. So there is certainly representation from council on the library board, but this is a provincial matter that's, pretty much out of our hands. And go ahead, yes.
So we were told by the previous CEO of the library that it is not a full-time position, in her opinion, for the Meaford Library. So if it is not going to be as it was with the CAO, then, and somebody has to be brought in to the library fold as a CEO, somebody else has to leave. It can't be another position. And I know I have no control over that, but it does bother me a little bit.
Councillor Greenfield.
Well, in response to Councillor Bartley, I would say the CEO of a library perhaps isn't necessary if you have a very capable manager of administration at the library, and that would have to be decided by the library board. So it's difficult to say whether the CEO is absolutely necessary. I don't think, and Brandon helped me on this, but I don't think I'm letting any secrets out to indicate that the Meaford Public Library Board has talked very seriously about having a full-time CEO. And as a matter of fact, I think those kind of dollars have been included in their budget for next year. Now, nothing has been decided, but I think that's the leaning as of right now.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship. You know the look on my face now when I. Thank you. Just changing the subject a little bit, if I may. And I think this is important to all members of council, and I know perhaps it's kind of between the lines here, but I'd like to see it mentioned specifically, either fostering a culture of customer service or championing customer service, because we've had many discussions and we've recently had a report on customer service within the organization, and I think we all want to see that a focus. So if possible, I'd like to see that as a line, perhaps in the first section, wherever you think appropriate, Sarah.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I will, I have that written down and we will get that added.
Yes, I'd like to hear from our clerk.
Thank you. I think at this time it would be appropriate if we just had a motion to amend the job description to include the reference to customer service, then we can just wrap everything up today, should council wish, and then we've got that officially included and we can go from there.
Then with Your Worship's permission, I would move that amendment.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Bell?
Sure, I'll second it. We're moving toward the motion.
I think you're in favor of this. This is a motion to incorporate directive to be champion of customer service. You'd like to speak to the motion, Councillor Urick?
No.
Okay, I think we should need to vote on the motion on the floor. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a general question for, again, my own information purposes. At the top of the document, it states 35 hours a week. And I'm just curious where that number comes from. I don't know whether that's germane across all municipalities. I don't think it is. When I looked it up, actually, I started doing a little research into it. It's interesting that there are a number of small rural municipalities recently who have adopted a 4-day, 10-hour workday. So they're working 40 hours a week. Just it was for my own information purpose, wondering where the 35-hour base came from originally, and if that's standard across all municipalities.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Urick. In regards to that, sorry, can you just repeat that last piece for me, just so I just want to answer it correctly?
Sure. So I was curious where the 35-hour base came from, and I've noted recently that there have been 4 different municipalities rurally who have adopted a 4-day, 10-hour to go to a 40-hour, although compressed to 4 days.
Again, thank you for the question and for clarifying just a little bit more. I think my confusion came in when you brought in the 40 hours and yeah, so the 35-hour work week, that has been standard, and let me reiterate that, has been standard across municipalities from my research. When I look at the surrounding municipalities, it is what the normal work hour is outside of operations. So usually the admin pool and I say admin pool, I mean the management administrative group are all 35 hours. I think it's quite a testament to say that I don't think there's anyone who does work the 35. It's much longer than that. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Councillor Bell.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. One of the things that my anticipation of when the request was made of the CAO, and I know, Mr. Mayor, you asked for basically a report or input from the CAO at council meetings. My anticipated hope on that was not to just have the CAO say in attendance today, we've got 2 new members of staff, and they've joined us here today. My anticipation of the comments from the CAO when it is in the areas of, say, item number 13, providing counsel with information, basically, I would really like to see that the CAO, upon being asked for comments at council, would tell everyone that's listening and watching that this week we are working on, let me give you an example so you know what I'm talking about. Inter Township Fire Department took 10 months to get an agreement. So there have been lots of opportunity in between there to come to a council meeting and say, and we've got staff engaged this week. We're heading over and we're still working on it. And we're really looking forward to getting it done. I know it's taking some time, but rest assured, you know, we are working on that and it is on our to-do list. And that would be an information exchange to know that something hasn't fallen off on the wayside or gone silent, that it would be an opportunity for the CAO to say, upon the review, this week, we've got 4 members of our work crew that are away taking a chainsaw safety course, and we're making sure our employees are well trained and educated on these kinds of things. And we can go, that's great, because we are counting on the CAO to make sure those things are done. So in short, I would like to see that the CAO gives a report to council and those watching a little bit of a heads up on what they're involved in, what they're working on, and not just telling us something that has already transpired, sort of making us more in the loop, a little cleaner. If anyone's got other thoughts on that with myself, or maybe I'm just approaching that alone. Thanks.
Before we turn it back to Sarah, anyone else like to speak to that idea? I certainly think that just a bullet in the agenda, CAO's report, where if there's something on his mind that he wants to make council aware of, that would be his opportunity. Whatever, but over to you.
Thank you for your comments and your questions, Mr. Mayor and councillors. In regards to that, that would be more an operational discussion that you would have with the CAO in regards to what your expectations of the incumbent will be. I mean, it is very clear in the job description what the intent is, and when you talk on 13, it is to keep council abreast as to what is happening, that it's accurate. So we've captured that piece, but I think it's when we finalize the candidate that we are going to be bringing in, that you make those clear expectations to that person when they do come aboard, that is going to be what council wishes from that staff member. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, then maybe this is a little bit of the operational side, but I have seen in times past, and we as a council allow this. We have given financial liberty along with financial responsibility to an upset limit should the CAO see something that they say this needs to be done, and they can spend the money before coming to council. And we've given them that ability. I forget the exact terminology of what that is, but you all know what I'm talking about. So when that transpires and when that happens, I would like to see again on that transparency of what is happening, that we are well informed on this. So again, I'll give you an example of why I think about that. So when Fred Rapier Park was flooded out with high wave action and rocks were all over, it came to council council, do you want to put the park back in shape? We all voted, yeah, get the park back in shape. And there was money that was talked about. We approved the money. Contracts were in. Fred Rapier Park got put back, and Mother Nature tossed more rocks back on it. At which time I came to council and I said, do we have money left over from when we approved this the first time? Because I had seen more work vehicles and more contractors back down there. And then I was told if I hadn't have asked the question, oh no, that was done on my delegated authority. So again, I just felt like I was just a little bit out of it. And yet we allowed the CAO to do that. We said, you have got the responsibility, you may spend this money. But again, when we came to council, I asked the question. Otherwise, I'm not sure we'd have been informed. So those are the kinds of communication things that I think in my own mind, they are the seeds to making a little bit of a disconnect. And I want to have more of a connection. So again, maybe it's all operational, and thanks for listening.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship. And sorry, one last question for you, Sarah. And perhaps you could provide some clarity for me because maybe this is more your role than the CAO's. But thinking of performance reviews for senior directors and recognizing that there hasn't always been sort of a schedule that's been adhered to for those. So do you kind of organize that, or should the CAO take on the responsibility of doing those reviews on a regular basis?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. You are correct. It is something that does fall in my wheelhouse. It is something that since I have joined the municipality of Meaford, that I have pushed along so that we did do some last year in regards to the senior leadership group. I agree there needs to be more wholesome, thoughtful time given to that. And so that'll be my position with the CAO to help them, to guide them through that process of performance review. And it will be timeline based, and I will be managing that whole performance review. Just while we're talking about performance review, and just to touch on a little bit what you were saying, Councillor Bell, we do have a performance review that is given to us by CAMA. And forgive me, I did write it down here and I'm probably going to forget what that is called, and I do apologize. But when I was looking at the job description and building the job description, I was also reading off of the performance review for the administrators booklet that we do receive. So I was making sure that it was that the wording in that performance review guidance book was also incorporated into the job description as well, so that when we are doing the performance review for the CAO, that you've got the parameters that you can align to the job description as well. So it makes it a little more clear so that you can see it's more measurable and you'll be able to see it right away. But as for the performance reviews for the senior leadership team, yes, I will be managing the process, the timeline, and making sure they are completed and that follow-ups are done throughout the year.
Are there any further questions? Are you ready to vote? All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. Now, I have a recommendation, be it resolved that Council of the Municipality of Meaford does now go into a closed session in the council chambers at 1:29 p.m. with the interim CAO, clerk, deputy clerk, and HR manager in attendance to discuss personal matters about identifiable individuals related to an HR matter. Yes, I need a mover and a seconder for that. Moved by Councillor Brandon Forder and by Councillor Greenfield. All in favor? And so we are adjourning for a short moment here. Welcoming everyone again as we return to open session and just reporting out, we discussed the personal matters that were identified in the recommendation to go into closed meeting. And I believe that is our agenda for today, and I'll declare this meeting closed. Thank you.